Hello, my friends. How's everybody doing? Let me make sure my phone is turned off. What a day. Holy cow. Huge walk this morning. Got some great exercise in early. Got a lot of work done. At lunch, I took Tig's bike over to get repaired. It needs some new brakes, and both of my sons have gotten into biking. Been biking around the village, so not they're not riding their Harleys around. But anyway, then spur of the moment kayaking trip. Kayaked for a couple miles around a big pond this afternoon. So the pond itself is like over a mile long, and I looped it, and then plus you're always kind of going in and out. And I didn't go. I wasn't chugging at full speed, but saw a beautiful bald eagle's nest. So nice day, nice busy day. Got home, had some dinner, took a shower, and here we are, right? Mark's, I think where we left off, Mark and his buddies had jumped John and the guys. John foiled the plan. Then, Henri is very worried because the other legacies are not coming in. And John should have started to develop some of the other legacies. So he's worried that they won't be able to be strong enough to defeat the Magadorians. And he had taken out that little kind of replica universe out of the box there, that Lorien chest. And they were looking at, it kind of made the planets float, and they were looking at the planets float. So where we left off, let's see. The planet still lives and breathes. It's withdrawn deep into itself, biding its time, hibernating, if you will. But it will wake up one of these days. What makes you so sure? That little glow right there, he says. That's hope, John. I find an odd pleasure in seeing the glow. They tried to wipe away our civilization, the planet itself, and yet it still breathes. Yes, I think there's always hope, just as Henri has said all along. That isn't all. Henri stands up and he snaps his fingers, and the planet stops moving. He moves his face to within inches of Lorien, then cups his hands around his mouth and again breathes onto it. Hints of green and blue sweep across the ball and begin to fade almost immediately as the mist from Henri's breath evaporates. What did you do? Flash your hands on it, he says. I make them glow, and when I do, I hold them over the ball, and the blue and green come back. Only this time, they stay as my hands shine upon it. It's how Lorien looked in the days before the invasion. Would you look how beautiful it is? Sometimes even I forget. It is beautiful. Everything green and blue, plush and verdant. The vegetation seems to waver beneath the gusts of wind that I can somehow feel. Slight ripples appear on the water. The planet is truly alive, flourishing. But then I turn my glow back off, and it fades away, back to shades of gray. Henri points to a spot on the globe's surface. Right here, he says, is where we took off on the day of the invasion. Then he moves his finger half an inch from the spot. And right here is where the Loric Museum of Exploration used to be. I nod and I look at the spot he is pointing to. More gray. What do museums have to do with anything? I ask. I sit back in the chair. It's hard to look at at it without feeling sad. He looks at me. I've been thinking a lot about what you saw. Huh? I say, urging him. It was a huge museum devoted entirely to the evolution of space travel. One of the wings of the building held early rockets and were thousands of years old. Rockets that used to run on a kind of fuel known only to Lorien, he says, and he stops, looking back to the small glass orb hanging 2 feet above our kitchen table. Now, if what you saw in fact did happen, if the second ship managed to take off and escape from Lorien during the height of the war, then it would have to have been housed in the Space Museum. There's no other explanation for it. I'm still having a tough time believing that it would have worked, or even if it did, that it would have gotten very far. So it wouldn't have gotten very far, then why are you still thinking about it? Henry shakes his head. I'm not really sure. Maybe because I've been wrong before, maybe because I'm hoping I am wrong now. And well, if it had made it anywhere, then it would have made it here, the closest life-sustaining planet aside from Magador. And that's to assume that there was life on it in the first place, and that it wasn't full of artifacts, or that it wasn't just empty, meant to confuse the Magadorians. But I think there had to have been at least one Lorik manning the ship, because, well, as I'm sure you know, ships of that nature couldn't steer themselves. Swallowed a piece of ice, sorry. Another night of insomnia. I stand shirtless in front of the mirror, staring into it with both lights in my hands turned on. I don't know how much we can expect from here on out, Henri said today. The light at Lorien's core still burns, and the objects we brought from there still work. So why would that magic have ended there? And what about the others? Are they now running into the same problems? Are they without their legacies? I flex in front of the mirror, then punch the air, hoping that the mirror will break, or a thud will be heard on the door. But there's nothing. Just me looking like an idiot, standing shirtless, shadowboxing with myself while Bernie Kosar watches from the bed. It's nearly midnight, and I'm not tired in the least. Bernie Kosar jumps off the bed, and he sits behind me. He watches my reflection. I smile at him, and he wags his tail. How about you? I ask Bernie Kosar. Do you have any special powers? Are you a super dog? Should I put your cape back on so you can go flying through the air? His tail keeps wagging, and he paws the ground while looking at me through the top of his eyes. I lift him up over my head, and I fly him around the room. Look, it's Bernie Kosar, the magnificent super dog. He squirms under my grip, so I let him down. He plops on his side with his tail thumping against the mattress. Hey, buddy, one of us should have superpowers. And it doesn't look like it's going to be me, unless we go back to the dark ages, and I can supply the world with light. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'm useless. Bernie Kosar rolls on his back, and he stares at me with big eyes, waiting for me to rub his belly. All right, chapter 16. We are knocking this down. I think if we can get every night in, I was thinking about last night, right around next Sunday, we should be done, which is pretty good. So Sam is avoiding me. At school, he seems to disappear when he sees me or always makes sure we're in a group. At urging of Henri, who's desperate to get his hands on Sam's magazine after combing through everything that came up on the internet and finding nothing like Sam's magazine. Excuse me. I decide that I should just go over to his place unannounced. Henri drops me off after we've trained for the day, and Sam lives on the outskirts of Paradise in a small, modest house. There's no answer when I knock, so I try at the door. It's unlocked, and I open it and I walk through. Brown shag carpets cover the floors, and family photographs from when Sam was very young hang on the wood-paneled walls. Him, his mother, a man who I assume is his father, who was wearing glasses every bit as thick as Sam's. Then I look closer. They look like the exact same pair of glasses. I creep down the hallway until I find a door that must be to Sam's bedroom. A sign reading "Enter at your own risk" hangs from a tack. The door is open, a crack, and I peer inside. The room is very clean, everything conscientiously put in a place. Its twin bed is made, and there's a black comforter with the planet Saturn repeated across it. Matching pillowcases, the walls are covered with posters. There are two NASA ones, the movie poster from Alien, a movie poster from Star Wars, and one that is a black light poster of a green alien head surrounded by dark felt. In the center of the room hangs from a clear thread the solar system, all 9 planets and the sun. It makes me think of what Henri showed me earlier in the week. Excuse me. I think that Sam would lose his mind if he were to see the same thing. Then I see Sam, hunched over a small oak desk with headphones on. I push the door open and he looks over his shoulder. He isn't wearing his glasses, and without them, his eyes look small and beady, almost cartoon-like. "What's up?" I ask casually, as if I'm in his house every day. He looks shocked and scared, and he frantically pulls the headphones off and he reaches into one of the drawers. I look at his desk and see that he's reading a copy of They Walk Among Us. When I look back up, he's pointing a gun at me. Yikes. "Whoa," I say, instinctively lifting my hands in front of me. "What's going on?" He stands up, his hands are shaking. The gun is pointed at my chest, and I think that he has lost his mind. "Tell me what you are," he says. "What are you talking about?" "I saw what you did in those woods. You're not human. I was afraid of this, that he saw more than he had hoped." "This is crazy, Sam. I got into a fight. I've been doing martial art for years." Your hands lit up like flashlights. You could throw people around like they were nothing. That's not normal. "Don't be stupid," I say, my hands still in front of me. "Look at them. Do you see any lights? I told you they were gloves that Kevin was wearing." I asked Kevin. He said he wasn't wearing any gloves. "Do you really think he would tell you the truth after what happened? Put the gun down. Tell me, what are you?" I roll my eyes. "Yes, I'm an alien, Sam. I'm from a planet hundreds of millions of miles away. I have superpowers. Is that what you want to hear?" He stares at me, and his hands are still shaking. "Do you realize how stupid that sounds? Quit being crazy and put the gun down." Is what you just said true? That you are stupid? Yes, it is true. You're too obsessed with this stuff. You see aliens and alien conspiracies in every part of your life, including your only friend. Now, quit pointing the damn gun at me. He stares, and I can see he's thinking about what I said. I drop my hands, then he sighs, and he lowers the gun. "I'm sorry," he says. I take a deep, nervous breath. "You should be. What the hell are you thinking?" It wasn't actually loaded. "You should have told me that earlier," I said. "Why do you want so badly to believe in this stuff?" He shakes his head, and he puts the gun back in the drawer. I take a minute to calm myself down, and I try to act casual, like what just happened is no big deal. "What are you reading?" I ask. He shrugs. "Just more alien stuff. Maybe I should cool it a bit." "Or just read it as fiction instead of fact," I say. "This stuff must be pretty convincing, though. Can I see it?" He hands me the latest copy of They Walk Among Us, and I sit tentatively on the edge of his bed. I think he's calmed down enough not to spring the gun on me again, at least. Again, it's a bad photocopy, and the print slightly unaligned with the paper. It isn't very thick, 8 pages, 12 at the most. Printed on legal size sheets. The date on the top reads December. It must be the newest edition. "This is weird stuff, Sam Goody," I say. He smiles. "We're people like weird stuff." "Where did you get this?" I ask. "I subscribed to it." "I know, but how?" Sam shrugs. "I don't know. It just started arriving one day." "Are you subscribed to some other magazine? Perhaps they pulled your contact information from there." "I went to a convention once. I think I signed up for some contest or something while I was there. I can't remember. I've always assumed that's where they got my address. Excuse me. I scanned the cover. There's no website listed anywhere on it. I didn't expect there to be. Considering that Henri has already searched the internet high and low, I read the headline in the top story. Is your neighbor an alien? 10 fail-safe ways to tell. In the middle of the article, there's a picture of a man holding a bag of trash in one hand and the lid of the trash in the other. He is standing at the end of the driveway, and we're to assume that he's in the process of dropping the bag into the can. Though the whole publication is in black and white, there is a certain glow to the man's eyes. It's a horrible image, as though somebody took the picture of an unsuspecting neighbor, then drew around his eyes with a crayon. It makes me laugh. What? Sam asks. This is a terrible picture. It looks like something out of Godzilla. Sam looks at it. Then he shrugs. I don't know, he says. It could be real. Like you said, I see aliens everywhere and in everything. But I thought aliens looked like that. I say, and I nod at the black light poster on the wall. I don't think all of them do, he says. Like you said, you're an alien with superpowers and you don't look like that. We both laugh, and I wonder how I'm going to get myself out of that one. Hopefully Sam never finds out that I was telling the truth. Part of me wants to tell him, though, about me, about Henri, about Lorien, and I wonder what his reaction would be. Would he believe me? I flip the paper open and I look at the publishing page and all the newspapers and magazines have. There isn't one here, only more stories and theories. There isn't a publisher info page. What do you mean? You know how magazines and newspapers always have that page listing staff, editors, writers, where it's being printed, all that, for questions, contacts, so-and-so. All publications have them, but this one doesn't. They don't have to protect their anonymity, Sam says. Or they have to protect their anonymity, Sam says. From what? Aliens, he says, and he smiles as though acknowledging the absurdity of it. Do you have last month's issue? He grabs it from his closet, and I quickly flip through it, hoping that the Magadorians article is in this one and not the earlier month. Then I find on page 4, the Magadorian race seek to take over Earths. The Magadorian alien race from the planet Magador of the 9th galaxy have been on Earth for over 10 years now. They are a vicious race on a quest for universal domination. They are rumored to have wiped out another planet not unlike Earth and are planning to expose Earth's weaknesses in a quest to inhabit our next planet. More to follow in the next issue. I read the article 3 times, and I'm hoping there might be more to it than what Sam had already read, but no such luck. And there is no 9th galaxy. I wonder where they got that from. I've flipped through the new issue twice. There is no mention of the Magadorians. My first thought is that there was nothing left to report, that more news failed to present itself. But I don't believe that's the case. My second thought is that the Magadorians read the issue, then fixed the problem, whatever the problem was. Do you mind if I borrow this? I ask, holding up last month's issue. He nods, but be careful with it. 3 hours later, at 8 o'clock, Sam's mother still isn't home. And I ask Sam where she is, and he shrugs. Though he doesn't know, and her absence is nothing new. Mostly, we play video games, we watch TV, and for dinner, we eat microwavable meals. The whole time I'm there, Sam does not once wear his glasses, which is odd since I've never seen him without them before. Even when we ran a mile in gym class, he kept them on. I grabbed them from the top of his dresser and I put them on. The world becomes an instant blur and they give me a headache almost immediately. I look at Sam and he's sitting cross-legged on the floor, his back against his bed, with a book of aliens on his lap. Jesus, is your vision really this bad? I ask. He looks up at me. They were my dad's. I take them off. Do you even need glasses, Sam? No, not really, he shrugs. So why do you wear them? They were my dad's. I put them back on. Wow, I don't see how you can even walk straight with these on. My eyes are used to them. You know, these will screw up your vision if you continue wearing them, right? Then I'll be able to see what my dad saw. I take them off and I put them back where I found them. I don't really understand why Sam wears them. For sentimental reasons? Does he really think it's worth it? Where is your dad, Sam? He looks up at me. I don't know, he says. What do you mean? He disappeared when I was 7. You don't know where he went? He sighs, he drops his head, and he resumes reading. Obviously, he doesn't want to talk about it. Do you believe in any of this stuff? Do you believe in any of this stuff? He asks after a few minutes of silence. Aliens, yeah? Yeah, I do believe in aliens. Do you think they really abduct people? I have no idea. I guess we can't rule it out. Do you believe they do? He nods. Most days, but sometimes the idea just seems stupid. I can understand that. He looks up at me. I think my dad was abducted, he says. He tenses the second the words leave his mouth, and a look of vulnerability crosses his face. It makes me believe that he has shared his theory before with someone whose response was less than kind. Why do you think that? Because he just because he just disappeared. He went to the store to buy milk and bread, and he never came back. His truck was parked right outside the store, but nobody there had seen him. He just vanished. His glasses were on the sidewalk beside the truck. He pauses for a second. I was worried you were here to abduct me. It's a hard theory to believe, it's a hard theory to believe. How could nobody have seen his father abducted if the incident occurred in the middle of town? Perhaps his dad had a reason to leave and he plotted his own disappearance. It's not hard to make yourself disappear. Henry and I have been doing it for 10 years now. But all of a sudden, Sam's interest in aliens makes perfect sense. Perhaps Sam just wants to see the world as his dad did, but maybe part of him truly believes that his dad's final sight is captured in these glasses, somehow etched into the lenses. Maybe he thinks that with the persistence, one day he'll eventually come to see it as well. That his dad's last vision will confirm what is already in his head. Or maybe he believes that if he searches long enough, he'll finally come across an article that proves his father was abducted. And not only that, but how his father could be saved. And who am I to say that he won't one day find that proof? I believe you, I say. I think alien abductions are very possible. Wow, we're already on chapter 17. We're cruising through. Oh, I got to sit up a little. Kayaking is one heck of a workout on your back. The next day, I wake earlier than normal. I crawl out of bed and I walk out of my room to find Henry sitting at the table scanning the papers with his laptop open. The sun is still hidden. The house is dark and the only light coming in is his computer screen. Anything? Nah, nothing really. I turn on the kitchen light and Bernie Kosar paws at the front door. I open it and he shoots out into the yard and he patrols as he does every morning. Head up, trotting around the perimeter, looking for anything suspicious. He sniffs at random places. Once satisfied that everything is as it should be, he bolts to the woods and he disappears. 2 issues of They Walk Among Us are lying on top of the kitchen table. The original and a photocopy that Henry has made to keep for himself. A magnifying glass lies between them. Anything unique in the original? No. So now what, I ask? Well, I have had some luck. I cross-referenced some of the other articles in the issue, and I got a few hits, one of which led me to a man's personal website. I sent him an email. I stare at Henry. Don't worry, he says. They can't track emails, at least not the way I send them. How do you send them? I reroute them through various servers in cities across the world so that the original location is lost along the way. Impressive. Bernie Kosar scratches at the door and I let him in. The clock on the microwave reads 5:59. I have 2 hours before I have to be at school. Do you really think we want to go digging around in all of this? I ask. I mean, what if it's all a trap? What if they're simply trying to root us out of hiding? Henry nods. You know, in the article, it hadn't mentioned anything about us. That might have given me pause, but it didn't. It was about their invading Earth. much the same the way they did Lorien. There is so much about it that we don't understand. You were right a few weeks ago when you said, oh, excuse me, we were defeated easily. We were. It doesn't make sense. The entire situation with the disappearance of the elders also doesn't make sense. Even getting you and the other children off Lorien, which I have never questioned, seems odd. And while you've seen what happened, and I've had the same visions too, something is still missing from the equation. If we one day make it back, I think it's imperative to understand what happened in order to prevent it from happening again. You know the saying, he who doesn't understand history is doomed to repeat it. And when it's repeated, the stakes are doubled. Okay, I say, but according to what you said Saturday night, the chance of us going back seems slimmer every day. So with that, do you think that it's worth it? Henri shrugs. There are still 5 others out there. Oh, excuse me. Perhaps they've received their legacies. Perhaps yours are merely delayed. I think it's the best to plan for all possibilities. Well, what are you planning to do? Just make a phone call. I'm curious to hear what the person knows. I wonder what caused him to not follow up. One of 2 possibilities. Either he found no information and lost interest in the story, or somebody got after him after the publication. I sigh, excuse me. Well, be careful, I say. All right, 2 more pages and then we have a little break. Oh, we're doing fine on time. I pull a pair of sweatpants and a sweatshirt over 2 shirts. I tie the tennis shoes and I stand to stretch. Oh my goodness! Excuse me, guys. I toss my backpack and clothes, and I plan to wear at school, along with a towel, a bar of soap, and a small bottle of shampoo, so I can shower when I get there. I know I'll now be running to school each morning. Henri ostensibly believes the additional exercise will help my training. But the real reason is that he hopes it will help my body transition and pull my legacies from their slumber, if that is indeed what they're doing. I look down at Bernie Kosar. Ready for a run, boy? Huh? Want to go for a run? He wags his tail and he turns in circles. See you after school. Have a good run, says Henri. Be careful on the road. We walk out the door and the cold, brisk air meets us. Bernie Kosar barks excitedly a few times. Oh. And I start at a slight jog down the drive out into the gravel road. The dog trotting beside me as I thought he would. It takes a quarter mile to warm up. Ready to step it up a notch, boy? He pays no attention to me. He just keeps trotting along with his tongue dangling, looking happy as he can be. All right, then, here we go. I kick it into high gear, moving into a run, and then into a deep sprint. Shortly after, going as fast as I can. I leave Bernie Kosar in the dust. I look behind me and he's running as fast as he can. Yet I am pulling ahead of him. The wind through my hair, the trees passing in a blur. It all feels great. Then Bernie Kosar, oh my goodness, bolts into the woods and disappears from sight. I'm not sure if I should stop and wait for him. Then I turn around and Bernie Kosar jumps out of the woods 10 feet in front of me. I look down at him and he looks up at me, tongue at his side, a sense of glee in his eyes. You're an odd dog. You know that? After 5 minutes, the school comes into view. I sprint the remaining half mile, exerting myself, running as hard as I can because it's so early that there is no one out and about to see me. Then I stand with my fingers interlocked behind my head, catching my breath. Bernie Kosar arrives 30 seconds later and sits watching me. I kneel down and I pet him. Good job, buddy. I think we have a new morning ritual. I pull my bag over my shoulders, unzip it, and I remove a package with a few strips of bacon, and I give them to him. He scarfs them down. All right, boy, I'm heading in. Go on home. Henri's waiting. He watches me for a second, and then he goes off trotting towards home. His comprehension completely amazes me. Then I turn and walk into the building, and I head to the shower. I am the second person to enter astronomy. Sam is the first, already sitting in his normal seat at the back of the class. Whoa, I say, no glasses. What gives? He shrugs. I thought about what you said. It's probably stupid for me to wear them. I sit beside him and I smile. It's hard to imagine I'll ever get used to his eyes so beady. I gave him back his issues of They Walk Among Us. He tucks them into his bag, and I hold up my fingers like a gun and I nudge him. Bang, I say. He starts laughing, and then I do too. Neither of us can stop. Every time one of us is close, the other starts laughing, and it begins over again. People stare at us when they enter. Then comes Sarah. She walks in by herself. She saunters up to us with a look of confusion, and she sits in the seat beside me. What are you guys laughing at? Excuse me. I'm not sure, I say. Then I laugh a little more. Mark is the last person to walk in. He sits in his usual seat, but instead of Sarah sitting beside him today, there's another girl. I think she's a senior. Sarah reaches beneath the table, and she grabs hold of my hand. There is something I need to talk to you about, she says. Uh-oh. What? I don't know. It's last minute, but my parents want to have you over and your dad for Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow. Wow, that would be awesome. I have to ask, but I know we don't have any plans, so I assume the answer is yes. Uh-oh. Keep monkeying with this screen. She smiles. Great. Since it's just the two of us, we don't even usually do Thanksgiving. Well, we really go all out, and my brothers will both be home from college. They want to meet you. How do they know about me? How do you think? The teacher walks in, and Sarah winks. Then we both start taking notes. Let's see. Oh, we got 2 pages to finish the chapter. We're cranking. We are cranking. Henri is waiting for me as usual. Bernie Kosar propped up on the passenger seat with his tail wagging, thumping on the side door the second he sees me. I slide in. Athens, says Henri. Athens? Athens, Ohio. Why? That's where the issues of They Walk Among Us are being written and printed. It's where they're being mailed. How did you find that out? I have my ways. I look at him. Okay. It took 3 emails and 5 phone calls, but now I have the number. He looks over at me. That is to say, it wasn't all hard to find it with a little effort. I nod. I know what he is telling me. The Magadorians would have found it just as easily as he did, which means, of course, that the scale now tips in the favor of Henry's second possibility, that somebody got to the publisher before the story further developed. How far away is Athens? 2 hours by car. Are you going? I hope not. I'm going to call first. When we get home, Henri immediately picks up the phone and he sits at the kitchen table. I sit down across from him and I listen. Yes, I'm calling to inquire about an article in the last month's issue of They Walk Among Us. A deep voice responds on the other end, and I can't hear what he says. Henri smiles. Yes, he says, and then he pauses. No, I'm not a subscriber, but a friend of mine is. Another pause. No, thank you. He nods his head. Well, I'm curious about the article written on the Magadorians. There was never a follow-up in this month's issue as expected. I lean in and I strain to hear. My body tense and rigid. When the reply comes, the voice sounds shaken, disturbed. Then the phone goes dead. Hello? Henri pulls the phone away from his ear and he looks at it and he brings it back. Hello? He says again. Then he closes the phone and he sits on the table. He looks at me. He said, don't call here again. And then he hung up on me. Dun, dun, dun. Chapter 18. All right. We are cruising through this. Guys, I'm sorry to do this, but I need to get a tissue. I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. I promise we're going to read the news. And I'm going to get something more to drink. Da, 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 da. You got to do like elevator music. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. I am so sorry about that. I think 2 years ago, I started to this time of the year get sniffles. And in all of my life, I never had allergies. When I was younger, this time of the year really sucked for me because, well, I think it was from like 10 to 13, maybe even younger, maybe like 9 to 12. I would have asthma attacks. And let me tell you something right now. Whenever I see somebody have an asthma attack, and my sons, both of my sons, when they were younger, they didn't really have asthma attacks, but they would they had to use a nebulizer at this time of the year because they did have some allergies. And I still remember the feeling of the asthma attacks, and I haven't had one in 30 years. More than that. They are scary, right? Asthma attacks are scary. But anyways, a few years ago, I started at this time of the year getting sniffles, and I said to my doctor, I said, "Hey, doc, what's the deal? How is it that, it appears as though I'm getting allergies?" And he says, absolutely, adults in middle age can get allergies. They can start to develop allergies. So who knew? Who knew? I'm looking at myself now. I think I got some sun today. Oh, man, and I got and I put sunblock on, too. So much from Mother Nature. What the heck? Tomorrow, I'm not going to exercise at all. See what she did to me? Nah, I'm going to exercise. I'm over it. I'm back. I freaked. I had a little corona emotional meltdown there, but I'm back. I'm okay. You guys are with me. I'm okay. Yeah, you guys are probably calling some kind of mental breakdown hotline for me right now. Might not be a bad idea. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, some interesting news today. So the number of deaths went down quite a bit. We only in New York, again, it's like you say that. So there were 73 deaths in New York State in the last 24 hours. That's a really good number, right? From where we were. So that is still horrible. It's still way too many people, but it's down quite a bit. However, coronavirus cases are going up. Hospitalizations are still going down. Intubations are going down. But the amount of people that have got corona and are having to self-quarantine are starting to go up. So I think, if I remember off the top of my head, there were like 15 new cases reported in Albany this weekend. And I did read, they said, well, the number of cases went down. Well, first of all, the number of cases didn't go down. What happened is that 3 of the people that got coronavirus went to Albany Med to get checked. They lived in Rensselaer County. So they're saying it wasn't in Albany. Well, whatever. There are still more cases out there. So we'll see. We'll see as the week progresses. So the governor today, a lot of things are starting to open up. So courthouses are starting to open up for in-person, I need to do something at a courthouse in person. So, maybe you need to pay a fine. One of the things that you do in my county in the courthouse is you can get a pistol permit. You can put a new pistol on your pistol permit. You can remove a pistol. You can do anything in regards to your pistol permit. So there are a number of different things that happen in a county courthouse. They are starting to open up slowly. And all of them, I guess, are open up except for down in New York City. Even I think Long Island opens tomorrow. President Cuomo tomorrow is going to meet with the Donald. He is going to be flying down to DC, and he is still advocating that we as a state need federal funding. If we don't get federal funding, we haven't even come close to the bad stuff yet, right? We haven't. The bad stuff is still way out. So one of the things that hit the news today is the Senate is truly considering waiting for quite some time on another stimulus package. There are a lot of economists out there, my friends, that are saying unemployment is not at its worst yet. Unemployment is going to be at its worst probably in late June. And this is countrywide. And we're probably going to hit about 25% unemployment. So that, ladies and gentlemen, will officially be the second worst unemployment rate in our nation's history, the Great Depression being the first. So we are going to be at depression level unemployment rates. So one of the things that the governor is talking about, and he, even in the news today, they said, well, Governor Cuomo is channeling, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And the governor is saying, what we need to do is we need to focus on infrastructure. One of the ways to truly get a lot of people back to work and to get the economy rolling again, rebuilding bridges, rebuilding roads, rebuilding sewers, rebuilding the things we need for our everyday lives. And you know what, my friends, it worked. The programs that built national parks, that built roads across our country, that I think I've told you before, the road that I live on, 145 in Middleburg, it was built during the Great Depression. It connected Catskill to Middleburg. And there had been a road there, but it was not a very good road. And it was like a literal one-lane road for most of the way. So during the Depression, this was built, and it connects commerce, it connects trade, it creates jobs, it connects people. And man, it puts a lot of people to work. So this is what he's saying. This is what we need to do, and we need money to do it. So I'm not saying every pothole in the state is going to get filled, but what I know is that New York State has one of the absolute worst records when it comes to bridge inspections. I don't know, a bunch of years ago, they released this report where it said 70% of the bridges in New York State fail inspection. So that's a lot of infrastructure. And again, that's a lot of jobs. Number one, they're good paying jobs. People that work on those crews make good money. Number two, is it skilled work? It's not the highest skilled work, but it's something that you can pick up relatively quickly. Somebody can be on one of those road building crews in a relatively short period of time and pick it up. So that's a way to get a lot of people back to work. And that's one of the things now that is, I think, going to happen with this unemployment, the super unemployment that I think runs out in July, across the board. Without a doubt, it was going to be extended into September. Now, the U.S. Senate is saying, we're not so sure. We're not so sure we're really going to do this. If if we're not going to see this unemployment, and if we're going to dump the money into infrastructure, one of the things that the Republicans say they want, if they do pass more super unemployment, I think that's the nickname of it, is basically this. I call up and I want my super unemployment, which again is your regular unemployment, what you would have been making, and $600 on top of that every week. So you call up and you say, hey, I want unemployment. And they say, where do you live? Well, I live in Middleburg. Okay, we have 40 jobs opening up in Middleburg. You go take one of those jobs, and if you go take one of those jobs and you try one of those jobs and it doesn't work, we'll give you the unemployment. Or there's a job here. So basically what they're saying is, if there's a job available in your area and you get shot down for the job, then yes, we'll give you unemployment. Otherwise, no, because we're not going to just let you sit at home and collect the money. So might not be a bad idea. I think it's going to take a lot of people to manage that system, if that makes sense. Like, if you think like 30-something million Americans, was it 34? 34 million Americans are unemployed. How many people do we have to hire to call all those people and make sure that they're out there trying to get work? Right? That's a lot of jobs that we have to create. That's a lot of money we have to spend to follow up. So, how do we do it, right? How do we manage it? That's a real tough call. But that's what the Senate Republicans are saying, is they want some kind of check on it. What else do we have? Oh, so for the first time in 2 months, the actual New York Stock Exchange is open. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ had been open, but now the New York Stock Exchange is reopened. I didn't get an end of the day report. However, the early trading was looking pretty good. And I guess all of the stockbrokers were behind, these like plexiglass barriers and all this kind of good stuff. But two of the hot selling stocks, airlines, we'll get to why, and Crocs, the company Crocs. What the heck, right? So airlines, why are airlines a good purchase right now? Well, here's why. Airlines are hurting. People are not flying anywhere. Very few people are able to do any kind of flying, because in a lot of countries, if you fly into that country, you've got to quarantine for a certain amount of time, right? So there are some domestic travels. But where these companies make a lot of their money is by flying internationally. They haven't been able to do that. So the value of the companies have started to drop. So if you get in today on that stock as the value is dropped, if the shares of American Airlines are normally $80 a share, when the market opened this morning and they were $12 a share, well, guess what? They're going to go back up there. American Airlines is going to skyrocket back up there. But if you can buy a couple $1,000, or these guys are trading in hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, if you can buy even $100,000 in American Airlines stock, when this starts up and the stock starts to go through the roof, you're going to make millions of dollars in a very short period of time. But that's the thing I don't understand about Crocs. Why the hell was Crocs one of the big sellers? Is everybody, because of the coronavirus, going out and buying Crocs? I don't know. I really, really don't know. One of the things that, also, I guess, was people were doing some early trading is if you think about like a lot of these, like Applebee's and Ruby Tuesday and chain restaurants around the country are doing horribly, right? They're literally like doing a quarter of the business. So a stock in a lot of those companies are down. And that was another kind of a place where a lot of brokers were going. You want to go in and get that stock that is way down here. It's way low. Because as things start to open up, it's only going up, right? It's only going up. I wonder, and I didn't see car companies, like car companies right now, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm kind of almost to the point where I'm going, maybe I should buy a new car. I just don't know. Maybe I should buy a new one. Like they're hurting. Car dealers are hurting. You could go, they're giving you incredible financing, and they will drive the car, bing, bang, boom, bang, boom, here it is, drive it right to your house. So, I'm half tempted. I haven't had a car payment in a while. My son is 16. He's getting close to having that license. Probably when DMV opens up, he's going to have the hours because I think you have to have 50 hours. So maybe I'd give the car to him. I don't know. But car companies, I wonder if a lot of people were going after those too. I'm not sure, my friends. What else we got? Oh, here's the greatest news. So, it was kind of a mellow news day. But guess what's now essential in Massachusetts? And this is a state that was behind us, right? The peak hit Massachusetts late, or definitely later than us. But your recreational pot stores are now reopened in Massachusetts. And, a lot of people were saying, like in Massachusetts, they left the liquor store open. So why not leave the pot shops open? But anyway, that made the news on all three channels. What else we got? Oh, I guess this is it for the news per se, but there were protests happening in Lake Placid. And I don't know if you guys saw this. Lake Placid has become really a hub of the Adirondacks, or that part of the Adirondacks. Tourism up there is all year round now. You're shopping, your high-end restaurants, you're this, you're that. There's pubs, blah, 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 blah. There's Mother Nature, there's hiking, there's this, there's that. Well, there are protesters lining the streets of Lake Placid. Go check this out. Literally with signs saying, stay out of Lake Placid. We don't want you here. So, I'm sure that these are more the residents, the year-round residents that probably don't rely on the tourism up in Lake Placid, but there are a lot of people that do rely on that tourism, that summer tourism. And I'm sure they're not very happy right now with these protesters, but go check it out. I wish there was a way I could share my screen on this, but go check that out because they're fired up. Right? There's no doubt that these protesters are like, hey, tourists, stay the puck out of my town. That's a little hockey joke. Lake Placid, Miracle on Ice, right? Hockey, USA versus the Soviet Union. No, you guys don't get it? All right. Take it easy on me. All right, my friends. Well, we're doing great on time. It's just about 10 o'clock. And I know lately we've been going way over on time, but tonight we might just end right on time. This day in history. In 1830, the Indian Removal Act was signed by Andrew Jackson. And we know that, boy, what a crappy thing that was. 25% of all the Native Americans moved from Georgia out west ended up dying in that Trail of Tears. 1865. Excuse me. So this is a good 6 weeks after the surrender of the Civil War. in 1865. And on this day in 1865, the last Confederate general to hold out after the surrender actually surrenders. He actually gives up. On this day in 1868, so we're doing a lot, right? Early America today. President Andrew Jackson, we had talked about him. He had violated the Tenure of Office Act, and he was the first president in the history of our country to be impeached, though on this day in 1968, the Senate acquitted him. The Senate said, no, we are not going to remove you from office. I thought this was an interesting one. I actually thought this would have been an earlier date. On this day in 1927, 1897, 1927 is our next one. On this day in 1897, a very famous book comes out, which has inspired a lot of books that are out today, right? Dracula. Dracula comes out on this day in 1897. On this day in 1927, the last Model T. So the last Model T car, the car that revolutionized the auto industry in America, right? Henry Ford making the Model T. The last one rolls off the production line. And on this day in 1989, a few weeks ago, we had talked about Tiananmen Square and the students that had come out to protest in Tiananmen Square. The military is called in to kind of squash what's going on. And on this day, the number has dropped down, but there are still 15,000 students that are holding out. They are holding out. They want pro-democratic. They want freedom. They want individual liberties. And they are waiting until they get it. So, and they've been waiting there, or had been waiting there for quite some time. So I want to go back to the Model T. Interestingly enough, and this is one of the things I love about living in a small town. So the library, which I've told you guys, I'm on the board at the library. We, in the early 80s, we were given a house. And this house was a medical museum for the doctor that had been the doctor in Middleburg for a very, very long time. Not only was he a doctor, but he was also a pharmacist. He would make his own medicines and all this kind of stuff. And his son had preserved the house. And they gave the house to the library because it's this old, beautiful Victorian house. And that building was going to become the library. Well, when the library did the structural analysis of it and the engineers went in, the engineers said, yeah, this is great, beautiful building. It'll probably last a long time, but you cannot put the books in this building. You cannot put all of the weight of all of those books in this building. The building, isn't going to be able to support it, or might not be able to support it. So anyway, so we kept the best house, and it's a medical museum. But, and here's where, short story long. So one day we had a guy come and visit, and he was a best family member. And he had held on to things that the family did not want left in the house. They wanted actual family members to hold on to it. And one of the things that's in the house is with the house and the property, there are 3 buildings. One of the buildings is a beautiful old carriage house. And in the carriage is Dr. Best's a carriage that he had designed. So, anyways, so this guy comes to visit us, and he says, "I want to show everybody something." And he opens up this old family photo album, and he shows us this picture. And immediately, I say, "That's Henry Ford." And sure enough, it was. 3 men in this picture: the doctor, Dr. Best, Henry Ford, and Thomas Edison. And I'm not joking with you. These 3 men were together here in Middleburg. So, we're all standing there like, holy cow, totally stunned. No idea that those 2 men had ever been to Middleburg. These 3 men ever knew each other. They had a picture taken. And the guy said to us, he said, "I'm going to tell you a secret," which I guess with me telling you, maybe it's not such a secret anymore. But the frame of the Model T is almost an exact replica of the frame of this carriage that Dr. Best had designed and made. So Henry Ford apparently got the design. Of course, Henry Ford made his out of metal, not wood. But he got it from his friend, Dr. Best. Isn't that, I don't know, that kind of stuff. I find that kind of stuff really cool. So, anywho, that's all I have for you tonight, my friends. I'm sorry for my sniffling earlier and my allergies. I guess I'm still sniffling a little bit, but, we're rocking and rolling here. We are doing great on our reading. Warm day today, right? Warm day, but a nice day to get out. Tomorrow, I guess, is going to be almost as warm, but that's okay. We will survive. Not a whole lot going on tomorrow. We got scouts tomorrow night over Zoom. I don't know the next time we're going to be able to meet as scouts together. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's going to be a while yet, but we shall see. And what else? I don't know. I think that's it. Just another day. So, anyways, my friends, it was good talking to everybody. Good reading to everybody. Thanks for hanging out, catching up on the news. I will see everybody tomorrow night. Keep running the marathon. We are doing a great job running the marathon. I know I had that little mental woo-woo earlier on, but that's okay. I'm back. Mr. Martin's back. It was just a couple seconds. But we're running the marathon, and we're going to make it. We're not trying to sprint through this. We're definitely going to make it. So with that, I miss you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow night for some more reading. Have a good one.